It's November 28th, 2014, and this is the first section on what I'm talking about with government premeditating a strategy to have it look like I wasn't getting raped when actually they were raping me, because they had forced me to learn if I didn't do something for them that was against my will, which they knew was against my will and was not consensual, that they would torture me, beat me, and possibly kill me. So it was the same thing, basically, as having a gun at my head and having someone say, you either do this or you die. But the difference was that they had programmed me to learn that that's what would be next if I didn't do what they did, because they did this to me already so many times. And again, it was a very natural kind of sequence of, natural sounding sequence of events and situations. So, it's easy for them to try to facilitate getting away with all of it. But there were specific trigger points and cues that they had ordered and organized for me to be able to separate when it was this government hit, basically, against me, from maybe some guy that, I just happened to be randomly in a car with on a date, who said, I'm going to take you home now. And I wouldn't necessarily do the same thing with him, because he didn't do all of the triggers, all of the code cues in the same order that I was taught to respond to. And like I said, they practiced this from the time I was still in a car seat as a kid, in the seated position, idea of raping me, all the way up to I think age 10. They got really vicious about the time that Edward Howard left the United States, supposedly defected from the CIA. And I really don't know what Edward Howard's involvement was with my life. I mean, I met him and I knew him. And I even stayed at their house before he had left when I was much younger. But I'm not going to say, I've had some people say that I was related to him. I'm not going to say that I believe everything that people have said to me. It is true that it was Edward Howard that I knew, and one of the individuals. And it is true that he worked for the CIA. But which person they were really wanting to offend the most is maybe not Edward Howard. Maybe it was someone else. And because they were also making a lot of videotapes over all of the things that they were doing to me. And then they were saying things like as if they were talking to some man who's going to be shown these videos. It was kind of like raping someone's kid, making a video of it, and saying, and at the same time saying things like, you see what just happened to her? Well, we control her, don't we? And here's another one. This is what we're going to do now. So you better bloody well get your ass back over to the United States and deal with your problems. Or, you bloody well better remember what you did in 1972. Or you bloody well better remember that one of our women got raped, so now look at what we can do whenever we want. And no one's going to stop us. And you don't have the power to stop us from your position, do you? So whatever these sick, disgusting videos were that they were making a lot of comments like that. And trying to rub in the fact that I was getting tortured. And no one was going to rescue me. So they, later, when I was, basically that's the only thing I ever did as a high school student, was the one time that the government codes were used, I did a blowjob. And I didn't want to do that kind of a thing, and I actually never did with anyone else, and I didn't do that with him again. And he actually tried to then rape me, and like put his finger inside of my, tried to put his finger inside my vagina, And that was also something that a bunch of cops, a big group of cops, had done to me in Moses Lake when I was 13. Like between 20 and 40 cops came to my house and put their fingers inside of my vagina while I was forced to lie down in my bed when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And so he attempted to do that, and I didn't go along with it. And then he was calling me on the telephone and trying to make it sound like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I make you bleed? There was blood on my fingernail, and I think I popped your cherry," something like that. He was like, and I'd been on my period, and I said, "No, you didn't." But it was like he called me specifically wanting to get credit, wanting to get government brownie points for trying to make it sound like he had just broken my hymen or something, even though I hadn't let him do anything with his finger or his penis. And he tried to do something, I was talking to him, and he tried doing something with his penis, and it was very sudden, and then I moved out of the way, and he didn't, because I moved out of the way. And I wasn't going along with that, and I think by that time I had a little more control over him, because he was trying to control me with all of his government antics and all of the information they were passing along to him. However, even though I didn't recognize that at the time, I was a confident person, generally speaking. And I think that he, at some point, began to become a little bit intimidated of me, because I had my own internal power, and he knew it. And he one time tried to put a guilt trip on me, saying, "I used to think you were better than me, and now I think I'm better than you are." Well, I certainly never thought of poor little Robin as feeling inferior to me at any time, because that wasn't my intention. But, he should feel inferior, because he is a goddamned rapist, and he's a disgusting person who went along with things that his entire family went along with, and he should be in jail. He instead later wanted to rape me again, and several years from the time I was in high school, he isolated me in a situation around Thanksgiving holiday, and he had it set up with some other kids that were government kids, and I never drank. I didn't drink any alcohol, and even though I was legally of age to drink alcohol, I didn't. I just chose not to for myself. I didn't really care for it that much, and I had like half of a bottle of a wine cooler for my 21st birthday, and then I never had anything, never bought anything for myself, had someone buy something for me after that, until this time that until a time prior to when he tried to rape me, and then they took me out, and it was a bunch of women, bunch of government daughters were there who knew me from high school, and they just sort of encouraged me, "Oh, just come on, have a drink, I'll buy it for you, and don't have to worry about anything, because Eric Bellinger is going to drive you home, and you're completely safe with us." Well, they all lied to me. They set me up to get raped while I was incapacitated by Robin Bechtold again. I was incapacitated. So I will explain that later and how that happened, but that was more from just an incapacitated situation where they lied to me. telling me that one woman was going to drive me to her house, and I was safe and everything, and then they had Robin rape me. So he didn't just get this blowjob done for the United States government. He wanted to be somebody who had raped me. He wanted to get credit for that later too. And his friends later, when I was trying to make a report on some different rapes that were coming up because of government employees, were all involved in this when I was younger. So basically the United States then sent me to people like Detective Brian Gross, who was part of this whole scheme, and then Brian Gross acted like he was interviewing me for a rape case when really all they wanted was feedback on how did I feel and what was my response. Did I feel like I was out of my body or a different person when it happened? What was my shock level? I mean, basically the government wanted to get credit for what they felt was their achievements in raping little kids for decades and then raping them when they were older. So, kind of explain ahead of all of this some of the things that then happened to me later with Robin Bechtold. But the first time that the government felt that they probably got a score on using their old ingrained tactics against me of torture and death threats was when he used the government code signals to have me do a blowjob. And then, like I say, I think they got nervous that all of a sudden I was remembering things, and the United States government they put a real hit on me, tried to kill me by running into my car. And the next situation, I said that there was a set of triggers or things that they did while I was lying down to facilitate raping me. I am going to talk about that, but I think in the next section I am going to first talk about their telephone bell ringing scenario where they trained me to accept being raped in a situation where a telephone rang. Occasionally where it was a doorbell, but most often they were practicing using a telephone. And again, that telephone scenario was used in England as well as the United States. But I don't really remember the lying down situation as something that was a trained response that anyone in England participated in. I might be wrong, but I don't remember that specifically I know that there were people who were molesting me while I was lying down over there in England, but when I was very young, but I don't remember specific knives and guns and death threats. If I didn't do this, that like training me for a coordinated response the way that I do remember in the U.S. However, what the U.S. was doing was right on the heels of of my being in England and being molested over there. So it could have been that the U.S. thought they'd make a cover for some of the things they did there. Not sure, but that's what I will talk about the bell ringing, telephone ringing situation of rape in the next section.